train both arts, man. I train a lot of different arts. And one thing I learned about training a lot of different arts is they all good, man. They all have good stuff. And I love to grapple and use jiu-jitsu for my stick, for my knife, because at the end of the day, it's fighting, man. It's fighting.
Yeah. Oh, it's the whole, it's human movement. We get hung up on the cultural aspect because of a sense of identity, and we're proud of it, which is great. But the fact is, martial arts goes beyond ethnic, nation, state identity. It's supposed to be a universal language. It's supposed to be a means to convey thought and intent without having to actually breach the barrier of language, because the body is the vessel of what we're trying to communicate. It's like dance. Dance is a universal language. Anybody who's danced knows what the other person is doing, knows the intent by watching. Same with martial arts. If you feel somebody flow and roll, you don't have to speak English with them. But if you're doing your FMA flows, you're doing your roll drills, once you feel that energy, you know what's going to happen, because you had the breadth of experience. You don't have to talk about it. You just go and do. But where we get hung up, actually, there is a great statement that somebody made, because I made that whole initial response about is BJJ better than FMA? And it's just me hitting the stick on the bag, but doing some groundwork. But there was a great comment somebody made about style loyalty seems like a weird type of nationalism for countries we aren't citizens of and may never have been to. So,
yeah. I mean, I think it's really good. Like, okay, I have a couple rankings in different arts, right? And that's fine. But if you ask me what I am, I would say that I am, before anything else, with respect to martial arts, I would say I'm a JKD practitioner.
Yep.
But I don't sit here and say, JKD is the best. I think JKD is very IQ wise. It's one of the better ones because of the principles and the concepts alone. It's very direct, economy of movement. But at the same time, it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean I don't see economy of movement in Wing Chun. It doesn't mean I don't see economy of movement in BJJ. Yep. It's economy of movement, period, across the board, right? And so I just happen to connect with the presentation that I was given and understanding these concepts through JKD. Okay. But I didn't learn grappling from JKD.
No.
I didn't learn how to box that well in JKD. I learned how to punch, but not box.
Nope.
You know what I mean? There's a difference, right? Like, the more I and that's the other thing too, is like when I see guys who just train JKD, who just train like JKD, they maybe have a good like vertical chung choi, like a vertical punch, stuff like that. But if you put them in the ring with a boxer, they look horrendous.
Yeah.
And you know what? I got to say the same thing with some FMA guys.
It's the economy of violence, and that's that experience in the ring and the cage, because you have to contextualize your art, your method, your system based upon the application. But here's the problem. If you're doing it in a sanitized structure like the ring, like the gym, like the dojo, without actually the context of real violence and consequence, because there's a difference between sparring, which has limited consequence, versus actually fighting in the cage, in the ring, competing against another human, where the end state is I win by beating the crap out of you, I win by knocking you out, I win by submission, etc. Versus like sparring, it's contextualized of this is a safe environment to develop skills, attributes, etc. FMA falls in the same category often when they're just doing flow drills. I mean, every art does, but crossing that barrier from not just competition, but like full contact, full consequence type competition, that's a different level of experience to draw from, and it's humbling, because again, you can hold pads, you can hit bags, but when that opponent is coming at you to knock you the fuck out, it's a different level of energy. It's a different level of contact.
I would say I agree with you, but I would just maybe add or just say is that sparring is not is sparring, from my understanding, the way I was taught, sparring should be research and development.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Like there's a lot of stuff you could do to somebody in sparring, but if you wouldn't have been able to do that if they hit you with their power.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what I talk about, like consequence, actual consequence.
But however, some people will like say, well, I would have won if I was really throwing. But like, no, wait a second. Sparring is a telltale of what the fight outcome would be without actually fighting.
Yeah.
The last dynamic that I think comes into play is the intent or the will, right? And the power. However, sparring is a very fucking good indication, in my opinion, because in sparring, you will see the person's attribute, their reaction time, their speed, their accuracy, their deployment, their movement, their angles, their defense, their traps, their IQ, all of that, right? So like, even though it's not a real fight, it's pretty freaking close, you know?
Yeah.
And like, oh, I might be more powerful than you. Okay, but if you can't hit me in sparring, all of a sudden you're just going to be able to do it. And I'm not saying like there's different types of sparring too, right? Like, I want to be specific, right? Like there's technical sparring, and then there's flow sparring, and then there's team sparring, and then there's like there's shit like that. But I'm just talking about like just full out sparring, maybe with a little bit of power. It's still a very good indication, right?
Yep.
And that's why arts like boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, 100%, Glenn, 100%. Now, but like I said though, I've seen some guys who spar. Like I'll be totally transparent. I didn't compete a lot because I have severe anxiety and I have trauma from my past, but that doesn't mean I haven't gone to throwdowns. It doesn't mean I haven't sparred with people from my club or other clubs that have won championships and shit like that. That's one thing I made sure of. I'll spar those guys because I need to understand if I can hold my own with these guys, I can defend myself against the average guy. No problem. Plus those guys will make me better, obviously. Right. But there is a certain thing that happens when it's for like a competition. And I competed in combat karate and shit like that. And I came in fourth and kicked nationals.
Yeah.
I don't do well with that kind of pressure. However, if I go to like a beat the crap out of cancer or something like that, and there's like no rules, nobody gives a shit, I perform very well. There are so many different factors that will distinguish the outcome of a real fight.
Yeah,
right.
So absolutely.
Until you fight, you never know. But like Glenn was saying, it'll show you what's up. It really will. So I don't see that from guys who are going on camera and portraying themselves to be something they're not. So